Hello and welcome to Teenagers Untangled, the audio hug for parents going through the teenage years. I'm Rachel Richards, journalist, parenting coach, mother of 2 teenagers and 2 bonus daughters.
Hi there, I'm Susie Asley. I'm a mindfulness coach, mindful therapist, musician and mother of 3 teenagers. 2 of them are twins.
And today we're going to talk about things we would have done differently.
So it's a really long episode. Buckle up.
Yes, I can talk for England on this subject. Before we do this, Susie just told me something that's actually a nugget of just brilliance.
Did I?
Okay, so one of our listeners used Bumble to find her very gorgeous partner.
Okay, that one.
and told Susie not to use, what were you using before?
I can't even remember. Some hideous site.
And then she went on Bumble and guess what?
Yeah.
In love.
Oh, yeah, a while back. Yeah.
A while back, but just spread the joy. Let people know. You never know if you're single.
Nice listener.
Nice listener, yes. Lovely listener. Okay, quick reviews. Kathy Chiang wrote, I love your podcast. This morning I used strategies you have mentioned to diffuse a situation with my youngest teen who was angry over a miscommunication. Thank you. Keep going. Happy New Year from the USA. Oh. Kathy, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy.
Made my day. Go on. Have you got one for us? What have you got there?
I have. Didn't realise I had it. Here we are. Extremely helpful. Just listened to one episode about self-harm and immediately followed the show. Finally, I got some really helpful tools to deal with my teen who refuses to see a therapist. All other podcasts advise seeking therapist help. If only it was that easy. Thank you for life-saving tips and hope. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
That made me cry when I read that. And last episode, we did mention seeing a therapist.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, if you can see a therapist, then sometimes it can be useful. Yeah. I think we jump to therapists often a bit too soon. Let's see what we can do ourselves.
Yeah,
unless it's something urgent,
great, and you find a good one, that's great. But they don't, like this listener said, they won't always go, and you can't make anyone.
And I was contacted last year by a listener in Australia who told me her son had accessed something very upsetting online, and I think it was someone harming themselves. And she was panicking and saying, I just don't know. I can't find a therapist. And I got her in contact with a therapist who gave her 3 half-hour sessions. I mean, charged her for it. I think they were half-hour. Done. Amazing. So I think if it's urgent, if it's something really distressing, for sure. Yeah. And the sooner you can deal with it, the better. Yeah. It doesn't get entrenched. Yeah. Do you have a nugget for us?
Do I have a nugget? Yes, I do. So my 2 teenagers are doing what is called F&N, which is Food and Nutrition GCSE.
I would not have known that.
And they have, which is a brilliant GCSE for anyone looking at their options at the moment. Wow. It's so good. They really enjoy it. It's like a little bit lighter than some of the other ones, and it's practical, and they're learning how to cook and learning how to feed themselves in a healthy way. It's really good. And they've got a practical exam in a couple of weeks, and they've got to do 3 3 courses, and they've all got to be egg based. That's the theme this year. Okay. Goodness knows why. Okay. And it's quite advanced. Wow. So they're doing souffles and making pasta from scratch and tarts, making it all from scratch.
Oh my goodness. Why is my child not doing this?
It's so good. The point of the nugget was that I was out on Saturday night with my partner. We went to a party, which was very fun. And they were practicing their 3 courses, and they had the most hilarious evening. So we came back really late, and my daughter had finished hers and had timed it, and it was all tidied away and everything. And my son was kind of mid-cooking at midnight. And he was super excited and enthusiastic. And so we sat and we had like a 3-course dinner.
I love it.
Like 1 a.m. And he was going, no, I've done this and I've done that. And it was just really lovely to see his enthusiasm, and also that they'd had such a fun evening together, taking the mick out of each other and helping each other. And it's really good.
I'm so jealous.
Recommend
my
Food and
daughter
Nutrition.
would have loved that.
It's brilliant.
She's doing history. She hates it.
Well, there's a little bit of snobbery attached to it, I think, in that it's not academic.
No,
so
sorry.
People give it, say, I'm not going to do that because I need to do a proper one. Do it. It's brilliant.
Do it. They don't offer it in my daughter's school. So anyway. So my nugget is that in yoga, there's a thing called drishti. And it's the word for where you focus to help you keep your balance when you're in a difficult posture. it helps you to develop concentration and intention when you're doing something challenging. And I've been thinking that we parents can apply this idea to our own situations. My new drishti, and I'm going to introduce it to the podcast and I'm going to mention it every week, is curious over judgmental.
Yeah.
I noticed this idea quite some time ago when I was researching for this podcast, and the idea that when you're young, you're very curious, and then you become an adult and you become very judgmental. And I think in between that is the teenage years, which is the most hyper judgmental, where they just become very conscious that everybody's noticing things and they're noticing things. And I think that's the time to shift back from that kind of adult, judgmental, I know what we're supposed to do, to the curious side.
Completely.
And every time I've been trying to remind myself, every time I have any thoughts about people or I interact with people, I think, am I being curious? And that's going to be, and I fail all the time.
That's amazing. I mean,
Yes.
curiosity is the antidote to judgment.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%. And it's a massive part of mindfulness, attitude of curiosity. You unpack stuff, you look at stuff with an attitude of curiosity rather than judgment.
Your world grows.
Yeah, it's an open mind. It's like, oh,
Yes.
okay, rather than, oh, okay.
Yes. Thinking you know, but you don't.
Yeah.
Right. Things we would do differently.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this, and
Yes.
funnily enough, I'd already been thinking about it
Weird.
because I was sitting next to a lady in a cafe who's in her mid to late 60s. And within 2 minutes of starting talking, I told her what I do. And she said, the thing I've always regretted is that I took my son out of the local school and I put him into an academic school because he was really academic and it looked like the school wasn't coping with him. And then he got bullied. And I feel really terrible about that.
Oh, gosh.
And I just said to her,
She's carried
darling,
that.
you don't know whether he would have been looking back now and saying, you left me in that crappy school, which wasn't very academic, and I didn't fulfill my potential. You don't know whether he would have got bullied in the school he was in. And you're carrying all of this. And the thing is, we don't know.
No,
We
she could
don't
use a
know,
bit of
but you're doing
curiosity,
the
couldn't
best.
she?
Yes, we're doing the best we can. So I want to start this by saying, whatever we say, you're doing the best with what you know at the time. And as we grow, we learn things. So learn from our mistakes.
Yes. And hindsight is,
Yes,
hindsight's
great.
everything's so much easier.
Yes. So we'll give you ours and, help other people by mentioning your own. And let's all try and help each other, shall we?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you want to start?
Yeah,
or-
why not?
Okay.
Mine have maybe, because I suggested this. I was thinking of some stuff, the stuff that I thought I'd done not very well. And then when I really sat with it and thought about it, that's not a word, is it? Thought about it. I was like, because you learn from stuff, don't you? You learn on the job as a parent. Like that's the nature of it. But yeah, there is some stuff I do differently, but I think they're maybe a bit more abstract. And my main one I came to was that I think particularly with my eldest, because we make more mistakes on the eldest, don't we? Poor eldest.
Sure. That's the job.
I'm sure there are benefits of being the eldest. I'm not sure what they are, but and that is really being more conscious. Am I operating from a space of fear or from a space of love? Because I think sometimes it's very fear-based. As parents, we're fear-based. Am I doing it wrong? What can I do better? What can I do?
And when you don't think you know what you're doing.
Yeah, no, we sort of slightly panic. And there have been some issues that he's had to go through over the years where I have been definitely in fear, and that's been valid and relevant, and they've all worked out.
Interesting.
Yes. Everything works out, doesn't it? You might not like the result.
Yes.
But everything works out. So kind of maybe trusting a bit more and really questioning the fear side of it. What am I so terrified of here?
Yes.
And is it worth spending my energy there, or would it be would my child be better served, and would I be better served if I approached it a bit differently and trusted a bit more and let that go?
And noticing that you're feeling fearful.
Yeah, noticing it. Because it's the norm, I think, for much of our parenting culture is fear. I think schools are run a lot by fear. We don't often actually notice we're even in it. And it's stressful.
Yes. And the whole concept of parenting is actually very, very young. And there's this idea that we can somehow do it well.
Yes. And we have to do it well.
And actually because I was thinking about, I've been writing a book about this and I was thinking about it. And the truth is our parents and our ancestors must have all done it with a modicum of success. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. So, the bare basics are the person stays alive. So that's a good start. And then, but where do you stop? Where is the line? Like, I'm actually doing this well. And
maybe
it's not
that's
quantifiable.
That's a really good point. So we have set the bar so ridiculously high.
Yes.
That, we all feel like we're not hitting the bar or even getting near it.
Yeah. Oh, we don't know where it is half the time. You ask parents, I'm doing this a lot. Like, what's a good parent? And they just, in my parents' generation would just open the back door and go, off you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
A couple of sandwiches. Don't want to see you till, nightfall.
Which had its pluses and minuses, didn't it? Yeah.
Yes. This might take a while. Community.
I've got more. That was only my one.
My headline's community. And it's because I grew up moving approximately every year and a half, and not just moving house, moving countries. And my parents, they didn't really ever have a community. They were, traveling around Africa, Spain. My mother left my father in Spain, and then we were in England, and then we moved again several times, and then we ended up in a tiny village in the middle of nowhere in Lincolnshire. And then I didn't want to go to the school in the village, so I went to a school 10 miles away, which annoyed my parents enormously, but I refused point blank to go to that school, which was a good decision, I'm afraid. But here's the thing, I never learned about community. I then also ended up in a career which was very, it's dog eat dog to an extent. And when I had children, I didn't know anybody who had children. I didn't know to go to the antenatal classes. I didn't know to go to the parenting, like the kids get together classes. I did a few of those and thought, oh gosh, there are other nice other ladies here. But I still didn't understand community. And so I think if you're not brought up around a community, and the truth is, actually, research says that more and more human beings are not in communities. And that's one of the reasons why we're struggling with anxiety and all the other social ills, is that we've lost this sense of how important having at least 3 people who you can tell something, deep and meaningful to.
Yes.
Okay. And I just think that's what we're trying to do here on this podcast. We're trying to create a community so that you've got somewhere, you've got a home. But with my children, I didn't do that. So I chose schools that weren't close by.
I see.
I didn't notice that stuff.
Yes.
I didn't think about that, which means that in this local area, they don't have a close network of friends.
Right.
And for a couple of years there, I thought, wow, I've really screwed up. Actually, it's worked out absolutely fine because they have got great friends.
Yeah.
But I think for anyone who's looking at, this school might be better, that place might be better, what you really want to underlying all of this is think about, I need to create a community.
Yeah.
Because this is the stuff that keeps us sane and keeps us happy. And if you've got community, a lot of the other stuff is okay.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point, really good point. I think I read something the other day that is the biggest indicator of longevity, isn't it? It's having
all the blue zones, they've got community.
They've got community, yeah, really interesting.
So that's my little.
Yeah.
Okay, what else have you got?
So I wish I had known earlier and been able to use, just the information of it, about nervous system regulation.
Ooh, yes.
Which I've known about for, a few years now, but maybe didn't practice that much to start with. And now I know a lot more about it and all the, the somatic things and how we can keep ourselves regulated. And importantly, how our nervous system is, that our children are sponges for our nervous system. I didn't know that.
Well, a lot of people don't.
And I really wish I had, because there were some stressful periods in my kids' lives for various reasons, moving country. This is earlier in their lives, some of them, but also as teenagers, for particularly my eldest, there were some very stressful episodes, and I found them very stressful. And I can now, with hindsight, look back and see that my nervous system was not regulated, and I really wish I'd known about.
So,
understandably,
yes.
and I'm not kind of beating myself up about it, but I wish I had known
the
that
techniques.
because it's actually quite simple to do a certain amount of regulation and awareness around it, so that when I was interacting with them, I could be, even if it was just 5% more regulated. They are sponges. And I have no idea what effect that, has or hasn't had long term on them, but I imagine it has had an effect. I wish I'd known about that. I think it's really important. And I also think it's really not that difficult to put into practice. So it's a bit of a
if people were sort of interested in exploring that, they could just come on your website and find out more about it.
Nervous system. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, it's a part of mindfulness, and it's basically awareness. So it's the first step is awareness. How do I feel in my body? Because we're walking heads.
As Ken Robinson pointed out.
We're walking heads.
Yes.
How do I feel in my body? How am I when I'm in balance? What does that even feel like? Am I ever in balance, or am I permanently in fight, flight, freeze, which a lot of adults are? What does it feel like to step out of that? How do I step out of it? And what can I do? Is it some breath work? Is it some meditation? If I don't like that, is it exercise? Is it humming? Is it singing? Is it dancing? How do I regulate? Is it ear massage? Is it, all sorts of different things that we can do to stimulate our vagus nerve, which is the one that keeps us in balance. And it's just little regular drips that can actually make a big difference.
And stopping before we reach for the other thing, like the drink or the phone.
Yes,
or,
exactly.
My daughter says, if she's stuck on her phone, I'll just say, are you a bit stuck? And she'll say, I do this when I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable. So I take it away and say, let's find another way.
Yes.
Let's do something else that makes you feel good.
Yeah, because we're not used to sitting with discomfort. We're used to numbing discomfort.
Really hard.
But I really wish I'd known about that. I think that would have been very useful.
Great tip. For me, expectations. Because I've been reading this book recently called Do Hard Things.
Yeah.
And the teenagers in that talk about how they feel huge swathes of teenagers are living through an era where the expectations of them are the bare minimum of what they could possibly achieve. And the reason I mention this is because I have two daughters who are very close in age. When it came to learning how to read, the second one seemed to be struggling with it. But in other ways, she was really bright. So I mentioned it to some people and they said, oh, you're comparing her with her sister who's unusually quick at picking up reading. But I just thought, no, something's not quite right. She comes from a home of readers and she's refusing to try. Well, I researched very hard and found an amazing online dyslexic program called Easy Read, which explained everything. It's revolutionary. Anyway, every night for 9 months, we did this program and it completely transformed her reading. When she was then tested, it turned out she was clearly dyslexic with a really spiky profile. Now, there are certain things that are really challenging for her, but in other ways, she's extremely capable. So these kids need way more praise to get them through what to them is super challenging. Now, when I got her assessment back, I sat her down and explained why she found some things harder, but that she's really capable. But I know in retrospect, because she's told me that my expectations weren't high enough for her.
Oh, that's interesting.
And she complains a lot about people around her who will say they're just undermining me with low expectations.
Oh, wow.
And she wants people to want more from her. She wants teachers will say, oh, just aim for a 7. And she'll say, why are they telling me to aim for a 7? If I aim for a 7, that's the most I can get. But if I aim for the highest grade, well, then I might not achieve it. But at least I tried and I believed in myself. It's very, very interesting. And I think as a result of her being diagnosed as dyslexic, I started off very kind of consciously saying to her, you are very, they say you're very capable, but that slipped away and I started making excuses for her when I shouldn't have. And that then resulted in me having to give her a bit of tough love. And now she is very good at creating expectations for herself. She doesn't need me on her back saying, you should do this. It's not about pushing her. No. It's about the expectations of her being capable.
That's really
very different. And I need to do an episode on that because I want to get that right. I want to be able to explain to other people, like, how do you show high expectations without using external motivators? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think it's a really difficult balance. And I resonate with quite a lot of what you just said. It's really, really interesting because I think, I mean, my upbringing and the career I picked, being a musician, is very pushy and very nothing's ever good enough. So I probably went a bit the other way with my kids, and I hate that in the school system. I think it's really destructive, and it's very can cause all sorts of mental health issues. I really hate it. Have I said that? So yeah, expectations is a tricky one to get right, because you don't want to go that way where it's too much, but you also want to make them feel that they are capable, and that the satisfaction and of doing well is really, really beautiful and important.
And I think it's somehow, because I'll keep with this book, and I'm going to explore this a lot more, because I think somehow it's about, rather than saying, I expect you to get this, is about how do you light that fire inside them, so they know that you believe in them, and then they feel you're holding them up high and saying, you can do this.
Yeah, it's
a different attitude, isn't it?
It's finding what lights their fire and then letting them run with it because they like it, rather than they need to do well because otherwise people won't think they're good enough. It's a very different approach.
Yeah, but we will come back to it because I'm obsessed with it. Right. What about you?
With curiosity, though.
Yes, fascinated. I'm constantly curious. Honestly, my husband's so bored with me. Just go, and another thing I've just learned.
Brilliant. You can tell us all.
Go ahead. Anything else?
Yeah. Something a bit more specific. Screen time. I would probably be a little bit more consistent and boundaried with screen time if I was to do that again.
How so? What do you mean by that?
I think some of it's worked well, but I think I wasn't boundaried enough early on, and then it's hard to put the what's that phrase? The
genie back in the bottle.
Genie back in the bottle. Thank you.
Yes.
It's easier to do it from the get-go.
And to be fair, we've gone through the whole COVID thing. So that was hard because because my kids were really, I was a non-screen household. We were really held back on that. And then COVID hit and it happened in schools, it happened at home, where people were just kind of unleashed onto the screens, which is one of the big problems we've been battling. So to be fair to you, but I agree. And actually I wrote a blog about what I would do differently if I was handing my kids devices and the things that need to be talked about. And I would create a contract and it wouldn't be I'm going to punish you if you do this type of contract. It would be, here's the things we need to talk about before you're allowed onto this device, and here's why. Yeah. And here's how I notice if you're not managing it well, and here's how we pull back.
Yeah, I think so. And I would be more aware of my own screen use.
Yes.
Because I think it's...
No, I agree.
It's connected completely, isn't it? I mean, and I'm not always good at managing that, so I'd be more aware of that.
I mean, the one thing I'm really enforce is meal times. Just no, no. Because my husband is constantly trying to creep his phone back in. And I'm like, no, we're not having that here.
Actually, we had a dinner last night where there were phones at the table, which they're normally really good at that. That's a non-negotiable. And I was a bit suddenly like, hang on a minute. What is going on? And they were like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because sometimes it turns into a bit of a family meeting and then you're like, okay, well, whatever.
But I was just looking at my homework. Do that after.
I think my final one is that I wish I'd managed to build a better relationship with my bonus daughters. And it was so hard. And I want to talk about this because I'm sure there are other parents in this situation, either on my side of the fence or the other side of the fence. And the reason it was hard was because their mother was incredibly prickly, because I think she felt very angry and hurt, and my husband and she didn't really get on or see eye to eye. And it was difficult.
Yeah.
And I think this happens a lot. It's not anyone specific to blame. No. But what I did was, because I had no experience of having a family, I had no experience of dealing with, all I did, as soon as I heard about them, I just thought, poor girls. Yeah. Oh, that's so hard. So I always came at it with compassion, but I didn't push because I really worried about her and allowing her to feel this close relationship with her daughters. I didn't want to be the person edging in on it or making her feel like I was in her space. But now I look back, I think I could have done a better job by reaching out to her more. And because I did a little bit, but I didn't know how to do it.
No, it's really hard.
And just messaging her and saying, I'm so sorry that you're feeling this stress and this discomfort. What can I do more to support you and your daughters? Yeah. And I don't want to tread on you. Like being more explicit and saying, I don't want, because I felt that, but she didn't know that.
No.
And I didn't want to tread on her toes. And I didn't want her to feel that I was trying to usurp her position. But I did want to give them love and a space.
Yes.
And I could have done that so much better.
Yeah.
So I would encourage anyone in that, either side of that, if there is a new woman on the block, don't instantly look at her with, fear, curiosity. Look at her and think, okay, what does she mean? What are her intentions towards my children? Yeah. And trying to be a little bit, it's very hard to do. Yeah. Be a little bit braver, I think.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a really interesting point you make there. Yeah. Can I have a final one? I didn't realise we'd got to final. I think I would take better care of myself. I mean, it's a cliche, isn't it? But I think I really would. I mean, I say it and I do it, and I'm much better in the last few years where I'm doing the work I do. But, really mean it, because at the end of the day, a happier mum or happier dad, whatever you are, they see the benefits
for sure
immediately.
100%.
And the vibe you give out in the home is the most important thing you can do. Like, stuff all the rules and regulations and anything else. Actually, the vibe you are, the energy you bring is like, I don't know, 80% of everything.
Completely
and
true.
You can only be the best version of yourself if you take care of yourself. And I really wholeheartedly mean that. And it's really difficult when, I was on my own. I am on my own with the kids, it's challenging, but I would take it more seriously earlier.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're so right. I shared a tweet that this woman had come up with, which was, she said she used to love going to the gym. She always went to the gym. She was really fit. And then she had kids and she didn't go to the gym for years. And she said, I used to beat myself up about how lazy I was. And she said, and now I've got myself a job and I've got some space during the day to go to the gym. And she said, and I'm loving it. And she said, suddenly I've realized that I wasn't lazy.
No.
I was just, and I love that point. I think it's also important for us to understand that there is no real balance.
No.
Because we're obsessed with being balanced, but actually when you've got young kids, you can't continue being what, I was talking to a mother yesterday who said that she had her young daughter and she sort of tried to carry on her life the way it was before, and it was incredibly stressful. And she says, her new children came along later, and she says, I now look back and I wish I'd been kinder to myself. Yes. And I think as your kids get into the teenage years, just we're getting to that stage where it is a bit easier, but it's also very stressful because other problems are happening.
Yeah, it's just different.
Just know that thinking that you should have this fictional balance is not true.
That's a really good point.
It's not right.
Balance doesn't exist. It fluctuates, and it's day-to-day thing, isn't it? It's what do I need today?
Yes.
And I remember, I was on my own with the kids, and when they were younger, I would not put myself first because I thought I should put them first. And sometimes it would have been better to do something nice or exercise or whatever the thing was. And because they are the, benefiting from that.
And, the one little tip on that as well is your kids benefit if they see you having downtime because you're telling them that this is okay. Exactly. And I now try and pull out a book and read. Yeah. On a Sunday, why not just sit down and read the paper or read a book? Don't read it on your phone. Read, because I was saying to my husband, stop reading the paper on your phone. Get the paper so that they can see that you're not just fiddling around on social media, and show them what you want them to be, but also show them who you are.
Absolutely,
And
100%.
that safe space
Yeah,
of just,
yeah.
it's okay to sit down and have an hour off and read.
100%. I mean, I do that all the time now, but I wish I'd done it earlier. I wish I'd really, really believed it earlier.
Yeah.
But there we go.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. Any other little tips? We can bring these up as we go along, can't we?
I think,
okay.
yeah.
Well, I thought that was really useful.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from you.
And likewise.
Yes. Thank you. If you know anyone who might benefit from this episode, pause, send it. Send a text to somebody, send a WhatsApp to someone and say, hey, listen to this.
Yeah.
And
I'd love to hear what listeners think they've done differently.
Yes, tell us.
What do you wish you'd done differently? And it's not a kind of bashing ourselves over the head thing. Also, what you think you've done well, like celebrate. Maybe that should be the next one. What have we done well? Can we sit here?
Struggling with that.
Sit here and be really smug.
Yeah. One thing I'm doing now is one of my New Year's resolutions, and I have a whole thing about how you can set up New Year's resolutions that works for me. And I only focus on one thing at a time. And my thing this time is the joy of friendship, which ties into the community thing.
Nice.
So what I'm doing is really focusing on my friendships and building back in the friendships that bring me joy, making sure I'm seeing them.
Yes.
And
I like that.
Yeah. But you see, I'm doing this well. And the reason I mention it is because it also ties into this stage of my mothering, that my children are now starting to, my daughter saying, oh, I'm away this weekend. Right. And this slow transition, what I'm slowly doing is I'm building that community again. But it's also great practice for me because I know that when my kids leave home, or when they're at university or whatever, I'm the person who's going to have to reach out.
Yes. I
am going to have to continue building that relationship if I really want it to flourish.
Yes.
Because when you don't spend time together and they're growing and they're learning other things, that distance gets bigger and bigger. So
absolutely.
It's practice.
100%.
It's practice. So I've been practicing setting up groups. I've been practicing arranging things, turning up, not saying, oh, actually, I can't make, no. Everything. I just turn up to everything.
Very good.
Yes.
That sounds really
very
fun.
Pleased with myself. And it's my New Year's resolution. And I'm doing so well at it.
Yes. But you're so right. It's us that we talked about that in the empty nest syndrome, didn't we? It's us that we need to go out and get a life.
Need to get a life and need to build those friendships. And also that's the whole community thing. And the kids see that and then they're part of it. Then they can come back and be part of a community that you've been building back in again. Yeah. It's all healthy. It's all healthy. Right.
Amazing.
Yes. You can leave a review on our podcast app.
Please do.
Yes. Or on our website, www.teenagersuntangled.com. We're on social media. Susie, you are where?
I am on social media and all my links are on my website, which is www.amindful-life.co.uk.
Yeah, and I do write a newsletter from time to time. I'm a bit erratic. It's another thing I need to work on. And I try to scoop up some of the things I've seen in the news in that, just so that there's extra information for people. So if you want to sign up for that, you can find the way to sign up for it on the website. That's it for now.
See you soon. Bye-bye for now.